Hi, this is Brad Donaldson with Arecont Vision, and today we're going to look at the new SurroundVideoOmni G3 camera, which is our first remote setup camera. We're going to unbox it, we're going to take it downstairs, and we're going to install it in the ceiling, come back upstairs, configure it without ever touching the camera. It's going to be really cool. So let's take a look and see what's inside the box here. Alright, so here's the box. Let's take a look inside here before we go install it. So opening it up here, so the first thing we see, we've got the mounting template. The mounting template is a sticker, so you just stick it up in the ceiling and it shows you where to pre-drill your holes. It's also got an arrow which shows you which way is the front, which might not make sense right now, but it will once you become familiar with the camera, because we need to know which way the intended front is if you want to use any of the presets for the panoramic configurations for the like the 180 or the 270 configurations. So mounting template. All right, let's take a look here inside. So first thing you'll see here is the camera itself. I'll take it out of the bag. We've got accessories here. This is the auxiliary power and I/O cable, if you want to use either of those features. We've got some grommets here for the watertight integrity. I'll show you that in a second. And some other accessories for drywall mounting. We've got the security key here, and then a little cover, which I'll show you in a second what that's for. So the first thing you'll notice is we've got some foam in there to protect the camera gimbals during shipping. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you get the product is you're going to want to actually remove the bubble assembly, and you're going to have to remove the foam. So that's really the only time you're ever going to have to get into the camera assemblies themselves. We'll take the foam out, and then we'll put the bubble back on, and you'll never have to take the bubble off again. So let's do that. Got 4 captive fasteners here around the trim ring that we're going to loosen up, and we'll take this off just like that, and here's the foam. So we're gonna take the foam off here. You don't have to be too careful. It is pretty sturdy. It's pretty rugged. All right, so here's the camera itself. There's 4 gimbals. From this point, we can take the dome piece, and we'll just put it right back on here, and never have to open it again. So let's just make sure these are nice and tight for the watertight integrity. All right, so let's go ahead and take this protective film off here as well. Okay, so let's flip the camera over here. You'll notice on the back we've got this back mount plate, and there are 2 screws right here that we're going to have to loosen to get that off. So we'll just loosen those 2 screws really quickly here. 1, 2, and you'll see from here there's a screw here, or a bolt here, that actually holds it on. So when you're mounting it, you can hang it, and we'll just take that off like that. This is your mount plate. This is the camera. We'll put the camera here. So, mount plate. This is the first thing that's going to go up in the ceiling. Again, it has the front indicated here. So if you want to use the preset configurations for the panoramic setups, you're going to want to point the front in the desired front location of the panoramic. Don't worry too much if you screw that up. The camera is adjustable, so you can fix it, so not a big deal, but it just makes things a little bit easier for the install if you know what you want to do ahead of time. So that's the mount plate. You're going to mount that in the ceiling first. Okay, here's the back side of the camera, and you'll see that there's this hatch right here, which is where you're going to access the network port. So we're going to unscrew one of the screws that's tied down here, and we'll take this off. And you can see here is the access for the network cable. You've also got your access here if you want to use your I/O or your auxiliary power options. You can plug the cable that we talked about earlier in here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the grommets that we talked about earlier, and there's 2 of each in here, and when I say each, there's one with a hole and one without a hole. So you're going to use the one with the hole for your network cable, and we've also got this little insertion tool here. So what you'll do is you'll take your network cable here, you'll put the insertion tool over it like that, and then you'll use that to push through the grommet, and the grommet will go over the cable, and you'll end up right around here with it. You'll take your insertion tool off and plug your cable in, after of course you've routed it through the appropriate holes on the plates, and then you'll use the grommet that doesn't have a hole on the other side, assuming you're not using the auxiliary power or the I/O. If you are using those, you would take the other grommet that has a hole in it and route it through just like we did. So once we do that, we're going to put the hatch back on here, and then we'll secure it down. You got to make sure and secure it down to keep the watertight seal. And from that point, you're going to be ready to go. Now, the reason I didn't actually thread the cable through and put it in is because we're going to actually take this downstairs and install it, and you'll see that you're actually going to want to do all of this when the camera is hanging from the mount plate while it's up in the ceiling. So let's go do that, and I can show you what I'm talking about. Oh, one other note is that on our boxes now we have this QR code, and you can access all of our installation manuals and other information through the QR code. So if you're out on site somewhere and you don't have the manual, you can use your smartphone to access it through the QR code. Okay, since we're going to go downstairs and install this in our manufacturing area and then come back upstairs to do the camera configuration, I thought it'd be a good idea to show everyone what exactly is going to be happening while we're configuring the camera, because we won't be locally at the camera to see what's happening. So each one of these 4 gimbals will move independently. It will pan and or tilt, zoom and focus, all remotely. So let's just quickly do, I'll just put it in one of the presets just to show everybody how the gimbals move. So here's a 180 preset, and you can see the first gimbal starts to move. So the first time that you hit the preset button, or whenever you hit a preset button, the first thing that the camera will do is go to its home position, so that it knows where it's at, and then from the home position, the gimbals will go to the preset, which is either a 180 degree camera, a 270 degree camera, or a 360 degree camera. And then of course there are custom presets that you can create yourself. So if you have situations where, for example, you want to look at one thing at maybe during one season and another thing during another season or event, you can have your own custom presets, and you can go in and you can set those. So right now it's going to the home position. Another note is you might be used to the Arecont Vision surround video panoramic cameras. The 180 is a 4-sensor 180 where all 4 sensors are creating this 180 degree panoramic field of view. Well, with the SurroundVideoOmni G3, when you do a 180 degree preset, it will give you a 180 degree field of view using 3 sensors, and then the 4th sensor will go to the back and look down for full coverage. So you get not only a 180 degree panoramic field of view, but you also have the 1 sensor that's looking down, so you're not missing anything. The same goes for the 270, similar to the 270 degree configuration that we recommend for the other SurroundVideoOmni cameras that we have, the G1 and the G2, where you create a 270 degree field of view using 3 sensors, and then you'll have 1 in the back looking down. The same thing happens here. It just, of course, happens automatically. So now you can see that the sensor is moving and going to the position for the 180, and you will see that once that's set, that the other sensor will head to the back. So let's watch, and we might go ahead and speed up the video a little bit just for time constraints, but this is what it's going to do. Okay, so that's the 180 degree field of view. You can see all of the gimbals went to the position. and they tilted to some preset orientation. That can of course be adjusted if it's not to your liking. Right now the lenses are going through and focusing. If you hear the motors moving, that's what that is. So after each preset, after each gimbal goes to its preset location and it finishes the pan and the tilt motion, it will go through and focus each lens for you. And of course the zoom is also going to be, in this case, fixed for the preset because it's a 180-degree field of view. Of course that can change as well if you like. So the whole process for the preset from beginning to end will take approximately 4 minutes from the point where you hit the button to the point where all of the lenses are focused. And remember before I said there's a front? Well, that's right here now, because this is going to be the front of your 180-degree field of view. And again, like I said, if you screw that up, there are options in the user interface where you can actually rotate this as a preset configuration, so you can step the whole thing if you want to, or you can step each one individually. You can really do whatever you want with this camera. So that's what's going to be going on when we are configuring it. This is, of course, as I mentioned, a preset for 180 degrees. What we're going to do downstairs is we have a situation where we don't want to use a preset. We don't want to use a panoramic field of view. We want to configure it to what we want to see in our own manufacturing environment. So we're actually going to configure each gimbal individually to the field of view that we need for our unique situation, which I think is what most people will probably do with this camera. But we do have the presets there if that's what you want to do. All right, so let's go downstairs and put this thing in the ceiling. Okay, here we are in our production facility downstairs. We're in our final inspection area here, and we're going to replace one of our second generation SurroundVideo Omnis with the new SurroundVideo Omni G3. So as you can see, we've pre-mounted the mount plate. Not a lot to it. Put the plate up through 3 bolts. This is a drop ceiling, so we use toggle bolts. We do have a flush mount adapter that would probably be better for this type of installation, but I wanted to show an installation from just what's available inside the box. So we've got toggle bolts in there to distribute the weight a little bit better. So you can see we've got the mount plate with the piece for hanging there. I've got my camera here. Remember, we removed the foam and that was it. I have not done anything to the camera itself. From this point, I'm just gonna put this up and hang it on this little hook right here, just like that. So the camera will hang there while you can configure everything. So we've got our plate here that we took off. I'm gonna go ahead and route the cable through the hole there, and I'll just plug that into the camera, just like that. All right, and from that point, I'll just secure down the plate. You line it up properly, just like that. My screwdriver, my lovely assistant will hand me here. All right, and we've got the 3 screws. You'll notice I didn't use the grommet just because this is indoor installation. We don't really need the grommet, but for anything that's outdoor, you're going to want to put that grommet in place. Both grommets, as a matter of fact. All right, so from this point, the camera's plugged in, it's powered up, ready to go. And all you're going to do here is swing it up just like that. And you're going to align these 2 screws right here. So you got 1 and 2. And that's it. Now on the back, there's an optional plastic piece right here that you can secure to the back side to cover up the hinges that we were swinging from. That's optional though. All right, here's the back with that optional piece I was talking about. It just goes right here to cover up the hinges, and you just secure these 2 fasteners right here. That's it. All right, we're done. Let's go upstairs and configure the camera. Okay, so here we are back upstairs on the 7th floor. Remember, we installed the camera down on the 1st floor in our manufacturing area, and actually we installed it in one of our final inspection areas. You might not have seen it while we were down there, but the room is kind of an L shape, and you can kind of see it on screen here. The camera is back right now in its original default position, like it would come out of the box, kind of a 360-degree configuration. And again, there's presets for 360, 270, 180 if that's what you want, but in this case, that's not what we want. We want to configure the camera to this installation, which is an L-shaped room. And what we want to do here is, you can see in this image here, you can see there's a doorway and then there's a station here. So we're going to want to cover that area. There's another doorway here that we're going to want to cover, and then kind of along the wall here are some workstations that we're going to want to cover. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to configure the camera to get the field of views that we want. So right now we're in the home screen in the preset area. I'm just going to go over to this area where I can individually move and focus and zoom, pan and tilt each individual channel. So I'm not going to start with this one though. I want to start with one that had that doorway in it right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and focus in more on that doorway. So what I'll do initially is I'm gonna try and zoom in a little bit more. So we're going to go down here to the zoom area, and I'm going to zoom in more, and then I'm going to go ahead and refocus from here. I like to use just the plus and minus buttons to do the focusing rather than the autofocus. I find it's just, for me, it's easier, it's a little bit faster. I'm going to keep zooming in on here and get a little bit tighter field of view, and then get that back in focus. I'm just doing some rough focusing right now. You can, of course, do the fine focusing if you need to. Now you'll notice from here, I'm looking at a lot of floor space here. I want to get that up, and I want to see more of the doorway, and I want to get more of this workstation in. So I'm going to go to the tilt function, and I'm going to tilt up from here. Tilt up again. So I'm using the tilt plus 20, which is 20 steps. There's a 10, a 5, and a 1 if you need finer adjustment there, but this is pretty good. I got a little bit too much of the ceiling there that I don't need, so I'm going to use the -5, and I'm going to drop that down just a little bit here. Not too much. One more up. One more. There we go. And so I got the top there. Now, the other thing you'll notice is I want to get more of this workstation and less of the wall there. I don't really need to waste all my valuable pixels on the wall. So now I'm going to use the pan function, and I want to go clockwise over to the right here to get a little bit more of the workstation. Again, clockwise, counterclockwise for the pan function has plus and minus 20, so you can step big or step small if you want. Now you might be thinking, well, there's 4 gimbals in here. What happens if you start panning so much that I run into the other gimbal? Well, there are sensors on the gimbals, and it'll actually stop and tell you that you hit the other gimbal. At which point, if you want to keep moving, you can go over to the other gimbal that you just hit and move that out of the way, and then come back here and then move it over. Or you could just take the other gimbal and move it counterclockwise to get the field of view you need and move this one out of the way. So a lot of different flexibility. Now, I've still got, I'm getting the workstation here. I still got a lot of the wall here that I don't need, so I'm gonna keep moving it over a little bit, see if I can get more of the workstation, just like that. And you can see from here, if I keep going, I can actually get not only this doorway, this workstation, and this workstation here. So I'm gonna go over a little bit more, and right about there, I've got this workstation, and the doorway. All right, so that's good for that gimbal. Now let's go over to number 4, where there was this other doorway and this other workstation here that I wanted to try and capture a little bit better. So again, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and then I'll focus that from here. Just again, a rough focus. I can go back later and do some fine focusing. And then again, I need to tilt up because I got too much of the floor, so I'm going to tilt this up. Oh, too far. Back down a little bit. I'm using the big steps here. I'm going to come down a little bit more, get some finer steps in. Still too much of the ceiling that I don't need. that's pretty good right there. But now, again, too much of the wall, not enough of this workstation. So in this case, I want to pan over counterclockwise. We'll go ahead and do that in the bigger steps. Get that moving over there. Now, I got the doorway, I got this workstation. I could probably keep panning over a little bit and potentially get some more of this desk if I wanted to, but in this case I don't need to. I'm pretty happy with this field of view here. I'll just go a little bit more and I'll keep the clock in the field of view there. So, got all that. Let's go over to the next one. Again, you know, I still have some more zoom range if I wanted to get a tighter angle of just the door. I've got that flexibility as well. All right, so let's go back to number 1 here. Number 1, we've got this station, and we've got this station, and then number 2, we've got a guy choking this girl right here, and we might have caught a murder on tape here, and then these 2 stations. So we're going to go ahead and try and capture these 2 stations here, and potentially most of this one if we can in this field of view. So let's see what we can do here. We're gonna zoom out just a little bit. Okay, we're at the max there. I'm gonna refocus a little bit here. And in this case, this is actually pretty good. I might want to take one step over counterclockwise just to see what that looks like. I'm doing the smaller steps here just to see what I can do here. I haven't done this before, so you're seeing this for the first time as I am. So from here, I got a pretty good look at all 3 stations. Let's go back to number 1 and see what we got there. So this is a little bit of a redundant area now because I've got now this station and most of this station. So if I wanted to, I could focus in more on this area because I already have a lot of this station with the last gimbal. In this case, I'm pretty happy with it, but just for the heck of it, let's actually see if we can focus in more just on these 2 stations. So I'm going to rotate this clockwise over here. Let's take some bigger steps here. So I want to really just get a tight image around these 2 guys here. So now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, actually a lot more. I want to get a tighter angle on those. Let's just get this back in focus. And we can go in a little bit more even. There, get that in focus. Okay, and then I'm actually go a little bit more clockwise, just because I think that'll look a little bit better. Get the full field of view on the desk there. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good right there. So that's all 4 configured. We'll go back over here and take a look, and you can see all 4 images now. We've got the doorway, this doorway, the 3 workstations, and the 2 workstations here, covering everything that's going on in that space. And of course, you can adjust which channel number you want for which field of view, depending on what you want to do. From this page here, you can actually adjust multiple images at a time. So for example, if you want to pan or tilt multiple imagers at once, you can do that from here. As I said before, if you have your 180-degree preset or your 270 preset and it's off, the whole assembly's off, you can take the whole preset and walk it or tilt it from this page here. So a lot of flexibility with the different options for the preset modes. But again, as I said before, I think in most cases you're going to do exactly what I did here, and you're going to go in and you're going to configure it to your unique installation. Okay, so that's it. That was quick and easy. You saw how quickly we put the camera up downstairs. We came upstairs, we configured it, no problem. So I think it's obvious what the benefits are of the SurroundVideo Omni G3 with the remote setup capabilities. One benefit that might not be as obvious though is the service call aspect of things. So if I'm an installer and I go and I set up the camera, configure it, and then I go home for the day, My home might be several hours away from where I set up the camera. The next day, when the production supervisor in this case calls up and says, you know, can I get this doorway, you know, a better field of view on it, or can I tweak this or that? Instead of coming all the way out to the site to actually touch the camera, you can configure everything remotely. So you can go in, you can pan, tilt, zoom, adjust your field of view, everything remotely. You never have to come back out to touch the camera. So that's a great benefit, I think, and it's going to save a lot of people a lot of money. So again, looking forward to getting this camera out in the field, the SurroundVideo Omni G3, available now.